If someone calls your name from the middle of a forest, most people would answer. I know I would have. At least I would have before Blackwood. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing hiding in the woods isn't something you can see. It's something that already knows who you are. The report you're about to hear was never shown to the public, not because it was classified, not because it was buried, but because no one could agree what actually happened. One ranger disappeared. One ranger came home. The problem was, according to every official record, they were supposed to be the same man. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 32 years old. For almost 8 years, I worked as a forest ranger in Oregon. Most people think our job is exciting. They picture helicopters, wildfires, rescues, danger. Reality is usually much quieter. We inspect trails, repair signs, check fire towers, help lost hikers, write reports, drink too much coffee, then do it all again the next morning. And honestly, I loved it. The forest never judged you. It never lied to you. It never pretended to be something it wasn't. People did. My marriage ended because of that, or maybe because of me. My ex-wife used to tell me, Ethan, one day you're going to love those trees more than your own family. Back then, I laughed. I thought she was exaggerating. She wasn't. 3 weeks before Blackwood, she called me, not because she missed me. Our daughter, Emma, had won her first spelling competition. She wanted to tell me herself. I still remember her little voice. Dad, guess what? I smiled. What? I won. I told her how proud I was. I promised I'd visit soon. Then she asked something I still hear every single night. Dad, are you coming home this time? I looked around my tiny ranger cabin. Old maps, boots by the door, half-finished coffee, the emergency radio humming quietly beside me. And for the first time in years, I realized I didn't actually know where home was anymore. 2 days later, my supervisor called. Ethan, one last assignment before vacation. 3 nights, 1 abandoned ranger station, routine inspection, easy money. After that, 2 weeks off. I accepted before he even finished talking. I figured, maybe after this job, I'd finally spend some real time with Emma. If I had known what waited for me inside Blackwood, I would have quit that morning, without a second thought. Blackwood Ranger Station sat deep inside Oregon, far beyond the tourist trails, far beyond the campgrounds. Even experienced hikers rarely came anywhere near it. GPS lost signal almost 40 miles before I arrived. Cell service disappeared shortly after that. By the time I reached the final dirt road, it felt like the rest of the world had simply stopped existing. The deeper I drove, the quieter everything became. Now, I've spent most of my adult life in forests. Real forests are never silent. Never. There's always something. Birds, wind, leaves, insects, running water, something. Blackwood had nothing. No birds, no wind, no movement, just silence. The kind of silence that slowly makes you wonder if you're the only thing still making noise. About an hour before sunset, I stopped at a tiny gas station. Population, maybe 200 people. 1 gas pump, 1 old pickup truck, 1 elderly man working behind the counter. He noticed the Forest Service patch on my jacket. Working up north? He asked. Yeah, Blackwood. The smile disappeared from his face. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly reached beneath the counter and placed an old flashlight in front of me. It looked ancient. Heavy steel body, scratches everywhere. The glass was slightly cracked. I smiled. Appreciate it, but I've already got one. He gently pushed it closer. No, take this one. I laughed. What makes this one special? He looked toward the window, making sure nobody else was outside. Then he leaned closer and lowered his voice. That flashlight always finds its owner again. I chuckled. What is that? Some local ghost story? For several seconds, he didn't blink. Then he quietly said, I stopped calling it a story 20 years ago. I thanked him anyway, mostly to be polite. I tossed the flashlight onto the passenger seat, started my truck, and drove away. I remember checking the rearview mirror once. The old man was still standing there, watching, not waving, just watching. At the time, I thought he was just another small-town guy trying to scare visitors. I had no idea that old flashlight would become the only reason I ever made it out of Blackwood alive. The road ended without warning. No sign, no gate, no checkpoint, just an old wooden bridge barely wide enough for my truck. The boards groaned beneath the tires. For a second, I honestly thought the whole thing was going to collapse. Then I crossed it, and that's when I saw Blackwood Ranger Station for the very first time. It looked forgotten. The radio tower leaned slightly to one side. The paint had almost completely peeled away. Every window was covered with weathered plywood. Tall grass surrounded the building, like nature had spent years trying to erase it. Something about the place felt wrong. Not haunted, not cursed, just abandoned for a reason. I parked the truck, turned off the engine, and instantly, the silence returned. It was so quiet, I could hear my own heartbeat. I reached for my backpack and noticed something strange. The old flashlight the cashier had given me was already lying in my lap. I frowned. I clearly remembered throwing it onto the passenger seat. Maybe it rolled. That's what I told myself. I grabbed it anyway, locked the truck, and walked toward the station. The front door opened with a long, slow creak. Dust floated through the afternoon sunlight. The air smelled like damp wood, rust, and something else. Something metallic, not strong enough to identify, just enough to make the room feel uncomfortable. The station was exactly what I'd expected. Old furniture, broken shelves, stacks of forgotten paperwork, a rusted wood stove, an emergency radio sitting on the desk. Nothing unusual, until I reached the kitchen. There was a coffee mug sitting beside the sink, half full, completely covered in dust. It looked as though someone had poured a cup of coffee, taken one sip, and simply walked away forever. I quietly laughed to myself. Guess housekeeping isn't coming anytime soon. The joke sounded a lot funnier inside my own head. No one laughed back. I spent the next 2 hours checking the building, roof, water tank, generator, windows. Everything matched the inspection report. Nothing dangerous, nothing broken, nothing worth worrying about. Around 6:30, the emergency radio crackled to life. Static filled the room. Then, a familiar voice. Ethan, this is dispatch. I picked up the microphone. Blackwood Station checking in, loud and clear. Everything sounded normal, until the dispatcher paused. Ethan, if anyone comes to the station tonight, don't let them inside. I frowned. What do you mean? Static. More static. Then, his voice returned. I don't care who they say they are. I don't care what they sound like. Do not open the door. The transmission ended, just like that. I stared at the radio, waiting for an explanation. Nothing. I tried calling back. No response. Every frequency was dead. I looked at the clock. 6:47 p.m. Outside, the sun had almost disappeared. The forest became darker, much faster than it should have. I switched on every light inside the station. Some worked, most didn't. By 8 o'clock, only my lantern and one dim hallway bulb was still glowing. I heated a can of soup, sat at the kitchen table, started writing my inspection notes. Then I noticed something. The silence was gone. Very quietly, somewhere outside, I heard footsteps. Crunch. Heniwais. Crunch. Heniwais. Batabus. Not running. Walking. Slow. Steady. Circling the cabin. I stopped writing. Maybe a deer, maybe an elk, but animals don't walk like that. This sounded deliberate, one step at a time. The footsteps stopped directly outside the front door. Silence. 30 seconds passed. Then 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I looked toward the door without moving. No one spoke. No one knocked again. I grabbed my flashlight, walked to the window, and carefully pulled the curtain aside. Nothing. The porch was empty. The dirt road was empty. The trees weren't moving at all. I slowly unlocked the door. Every survival instinct told me not to, but curiosity won. I stepped outside. Cold air hit my face. The clearing was completely empty. No footprints, no animals, nothing. I swept the flashlight across the tree line. Left, right, nothing. Then, from somewhere deep inside the forest, far beyond the trees, I heard it, very softly. Ethan. I froze. The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It sounded almost familiar, as if someone I knew was trying not to wake anyone else. Ethan, this time, a little farther away, almost inviting me to follow. Every ranger is taught the exact same rule. If someone calls for help in deep wilderness, don't immediately run toward the sound. Echoes can travel for miles. People lose direction. People disappear. So I stayed exactly where I was, heart pounding. Flashlight shaking slightly in my hand. The voice never came again. After another minute, I walked back inside, locked every door, checked every window, and finally sat down. That's when I noticed something that absolutely hadn't been there before. Mud. Fresh, wet mud. One set of boot prints crossing the wooden floor, starting at the back door, ending right beside my chair. There were no footprints leading back out. Whoever walked into Blackwood Ranger Station never left. Ooh, I didn't sleep, at least not for very long. Every few minutes, I'd find myself staring toward the back door, looking at those muddy footprints, trying to convince myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe I missed another trail. Maybe I stepped in mud myself. Maybe my brain was simply exhausted. I wanted an answer, any answer, because the truth was starting to feel impossible. Eventually, I drifted off. Then, I woke up, not because of a nightmare, not because of a noise outside, because every light inside the station had suddenly turned off. Complete darkness. For a few seconds, I couldn't even remember where I was. Then, I heard it. The emergency radio. Static exploded through the cabin. Its green power light glowed in the darkness. I looked toward the clock. 3:13 a.m. Exactly. I clearly remembered switching that radio off before going to bed. Now, it was on again. I slowly reached for the microphone. Before I could touch it, someone spoke. Very quietly. Blackwood Station. Static. If anyone can hear this, do not answer the voice. The signal cracked violently. Then another sentence, barely understandable. It only enters after permission. Silence. The transmission ended. I picked up the microphone. This is Ranger Ethan Brooks. Who is this? Nothing. Only static. I changed frequencies. Nothing. Every channel dead. Then, without warning, the radio spoke again. Only this time, the voice wasn't a stranger's. It was mine. Exactly mine. Same breathing. Same tone. Same accent. Ethan, don't answer the radio. I dropped the microphone. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe because I knew, without any doubt, I had never said those words. Then, everything went silent again. I sat there until sunrise. The first light finally reached the windows around 6:30. I hadn't slept another second. The muddy footprints were still there, exactly where they'd been the night before. I knelt beside one. The mud was still wet. That made no sense. Nothing stays wet for 8 hours inside a heated cabin. I reached out and touched it. Cold, ice cold, almost like snow. I immediately stood up. Something wasn't right. I checked every room again. Kitchen, storage room, closets, bathroom, nothing. Then I found something I was certain hadn't been there yesterday. An old leather notebook sitting neatly on the kitchen table. There wasn't a single speck of dust on it. Almost as if someone had placed it there while I was asleep. Across the front, faded black letters read, Blackwood Ranger Log. I slowly opened it. The first pages looked normal. Trail inspections, weather reports, equipment repairs. Then the handwriting changed. Messy, uneven, rushed, almost panicked. One entry immediately caught my attention. October 12. Heard someone calling my partner's name. The strange part, my partner was standing beside me when it happened. I turned the page. October 15. Voice sounds more convincing every night. It remembers conversations. It remembers names. Another page. October 18. Never answer anything after sunset, even if it's someone you love. I felt a chill crawl up my back. The final page contained only one sentence, written so hard the pen had torn through the paper. It doesn't copy voices, it copies trust. I slowly closed the notebook. For the first time, leaving Blackwood felt like the smartest decision I'd ever make. I packed my gear immediately. Laptop, maps, medical kit, radio. I was halfway to the truck when my phone vibrated. 1 bar of signal, just enough. It was my supervisor. I answered instantly. Ethan, you done already? Yeah, I'm leaving. There was a pause. Then he quietly asked, did anything happen? I looked back toward the station. I found a ranger log. Silence. What ranger log? The Blackwood Ranger log. Another long pause. Ethan, there shouldn't be one. I frowned. What do you mean? We removed every document from that station 19 years ago. I slowly looked back at the notebook, still sitting in my hand. It felt real, heavy, old. I'm literally holding it. His breathing changed. Ethan, listen to me very carefully. Leave right now. Don't stop until you're back on Highway 26. Before I could answer, the call disconnected. No signal. I climbed into my truck, turned the key. Nothing. The engine didn't even try to start. Again, nothing. Battery dead. Impossible. It had been running perfectly less than 24 hours earlier. I grabbed my tools, lifted the hood, and froze. The battery was missing. Not damaged, not disconnected. Gone. There were fresh wrench marks on the mounting bracket. Someone had removed it very recently. I slowly looked toward the forest. The trees stood perfectly still. Then, from somewhere far beyond the tree line, I heard a little girl laughing, very softly. It reminded me of Emma, my daughter. I squeezed my eyes shut. No, when I opened them again, the laughter had stopped, but something else had started. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. This time, they weren't coming from the station. They were coming from underneath it. I looked toward the cabin, toward the old wooden floor, and for the first time, I realized Blackwood hadn't been trying to keep people out. It had been trying to keep something inside. I stood there, staring at the cabin. The knocking stopped. Everything stopped, even the wind. For a moment, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Then, another sound. A long, slow, metallic scrape coming from beneath the floor, like something heavy was being dragged across concrete. I didn't move. Every instinct told me to walk away, to leave the station, walk to the highway. Forget the truck, forget the inspection, forget Blackwood. But then I remembered Emma. If I started walking now, it would take hours to reach the nearest road. Night would come first, and somehow that thought scared me even more. So instead, I grabbed a crowbar from the storage room, walked back inside, and found the source of the knocking, the old supply closet. Yesterday, I checked that exact room. There had been nothing. Today, a rusted metal hatch sat in the middle of the floor. I froze. There was no way I could have missed something that large. Slowly, I knelt beside it. Fresh scratches covered the metal, as if someone had opened it only minutes ago. I wrapped both hands around the handle, took one deep breath, and pulled. The hatch screamed as years of rust cracked apart. Cold air rushed upward, far colder than it should have been. It smelled like wet stone, old concrete, and burned electrical wires. A narrow staircase disappeared into darkness. I switched on the old flashlight, the one from the gas station. Its beam looked brighter than it had the day before, almost too bright. I started walking down, one step, then another. The temperature kept dropping. My breath became visible. Water dripped somewhere below. The walls changed from wood to rough concrete. Then, I reached the bottom. The basement was enormous, far larger than the ranger station above it. Concrete hallways stretched into darkness. Old electrical cables hung from the ceiling. Rusted equipment, covered in thick dust, stood against the walls. This wasn't a storage basement. Someone had built an entire underground facility, and then they'd abandoned it, or at least, that's what I thought, until I noticed the lights. One by one, small red emergency lights began turning on. Click, click, click. The hallway slowly filled with dim red light. Nobody had touched anything. Yet, the building was waking up. I whispered to myself, "What is this place?" No one answered, at least not immediately. I followed the hallway. Every few feet, another steel door appeared. Most had faded warning signs. Authorized as personnel only. Bioacoustic test area. Restricted access. Every door stood wide open. Every room completely empty, like people had left in a hurry. Then, I found the control room. Old computers, broken monitors, rows of tape recorders, dust everywhere, except one chair. Someone had been sitting there recently. I slowly walked closer. On the desk lay a single file, stamped in faded red letters, Project Echo. My heart started pounding. I opened it. The first several pages were missing. Only torn edges remained. The surviving pages looked like scientific reports. One sentence immediately caught my eye. Subject does not imitate sound. Subject imitates memory. I frowned. Another page. Direct visual contact is not required. Long-term exposure increases accuracy. Another. The entity learns through conversation. Do not share personal information. I felt a knot form in my stomach. My name, Emma, my divorce, everything I'd said inside that station. Had something been listening the entire time? Then I found the final surviving report. Across the top, someone had handwritten final recommendation. Below it, only one paragraph remained. The anomaly cannot create a human. It requires an existing identity. The longer a subject remains exposed, the easier replacement becomes. I stopped reading. Replacement? Replacement by what? Suddenly, every monitor inside the room turned on. All at once, static filled the screens. Then, camera feeds appeared. One camera showed the ranger station, another, the dirt road, another, the bridge, another, the hallway. outside the control room. I stared at the last monitor. Someone was standing there, perfectly still, facing the camera. It was me. Same jacket, same boots, same backpack. Everything matched, except its smile. I wasn't smiling. It was. Very slowly, it lifted one hand and waved. A chill shot through my entire body. I spun around. The hallway behind me was empty. I looked back at the monitor. The figure was gone. Then, every screen changed. Now, all of them showed the control room. From different angles, every camera was pointed at me, like the building itself was watching. Without warning, the emergency radio on the desk burst to life. Static, then my own voice. "Ethan, turn around." I didn't. The voice laughed, quietly, softly, exactly the way I laugh. Then it whispered, "You've been talking to me since you arrived." Every muscle in my body locked, because suddenly I remembered something. The cashier, the dispatcher, the phone call, even Emma's laughter outside the station. I had never actually seen any of the people I spoke to, only heard them. The realization hit me like ice water. Maybe I hadn't spoken to a single real person since entering Blackwood. Then I heard footsteps, not on the monitor, not through the radio, real footsteps behind me, slow, calm, one step. Time. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to look. Then something leaned close, just behind my shoulder, close enough that I could feel its cold breath, and in a perfect copy of my own voice, it whispered, "Thank you for telling me everything." I turned around. There was nothing behind me. No footsteps, no shadow, no figure. Just an empty hallway lit by flickering red lights. I stood there, trying to catch my breath. Then, every light went out. Complete darkness. The old flashlight, the one the cashier had given me, was the only light still working. Its beam cut through the darkness, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Then, I noticed something. Words slowly appearing on the concrete wall. Not glowing, not painted, wet, as if someone had written them with muddy fingers. "Don't let it leave." Before I could even process what I'd read, every speaker inside the facility came alive. Hundreds of voices. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. Then they suddenly became one voice. Mine. "Ethan, you already know the truth. You don't belong out there anymore." I backed away. The voice continued. "You've been lonely. You've been tired. You've spent years pretending everything was okay." For one brief second, I froze, because it wasn't lying. It knew things I had never told anyone, things I'd barely admitted to myself. Then the flashlight flickered. For the first time, its beam pointed somewhere, without me moving it, toward a narrow maintenance tunnel hidden behind a broken shelf. I remembered what the old cashier had said. That flashlight always finds its owner again. I didn't question it. I ran. The tunnel was barely wide enough for one person. Concrete scraped against my shoulders. Behind me, the voices changed. Now, they sounded like Emma. "Dad, please don't leave me." I squeezed my eyes shut and kept running, because Emma called me Dad. She never called me Father. The voice behind me did. It was learning, but it still wasn't perfect. The tunnel sloped upward, fresh air, moonlight, freedom. I pulled myself through a crack in the rocks and collapsed into the cold night. For the first time, I could hear real wind, real crickets, a real forest. Then headlights. A sheriff's SUV rolled toward me. A deputy jumped out, helping me to my feet. "Easy, we've got you." I looked back toward Blackwood. Nothing. No lights, no building, only trees, as if the ranger station had never existed. At the hospital, they asked hundreds of questions. My name, my badge number, my assignment. I answered everything. Then, an investigator quietly slid my personnel file across the table. "Ethan, can you explain this?" Inside the folder was my harrowing photograph. I smiled without understanding. Then, I noticed the date. It wasn't 8 years old. It was 19 years old. I laughed. "There has to be a mistake." "There is." The investigator looked directly into my eyes. "We don't think you're lying. We think you honestly believe you're Ethan Brooks." Silence. Then, he placed another photograph on the table. A family photo. My ex-wife, Emma, standing beside another man. He was holding Emma's hand. She was smiling, happy. The caption underneath read, "Family visit, June 14, last month." The man beside them was me, or at least he looked exactly like me. Same face, same smile, same scar above my eyebrow. Everything, except I had been inside Blackwood that same week. My hands started shaking. "No, that's impossible." The investigator slowly nodded. "We checked security cameras. He lives in your house. He drives your truck. He kisses your wife goodbye before work. He coaches Emma's softball team. He knows every password, every birthday, every memory." He looked down before quietly saying, "The only person who says he isn't Ethan Brooks is you." Weeks passed. No one believed my story. Project Echo didn't exist. The underground facility didn't exist. Blackwood Ranger Station officially burned down 20 years ago. There was no evidence, no tapes, no hatch, nothing. Eventually, I stopped trying to convince people. I disappeared, changed my name, moved across the country, started over. Sometimes, late at night, I'd still wake up thinking I heard someone calling my name, but nothing ever happened for almost 2 years. Then, on a rainy Thursday evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Every drop of blood left my face. I walked to the peephole. A little girl stood outside, about 8 years old. Dark hoodie, small backpack. She looked up and smiled. "Dad." My heart stopped. It wasn't Emma. I'd never seen this child before. She slowly raised the old metal flashlight, the same one the cashier had given me. Then she whispered, "He found his family, so now it's your turn." The hallway lights went out just for 1 second. When they came back, the girl was gone. Only the flashlight remained on the floor. I picked it up. On the scratched metal casing, words had been carved so deeply they could never be erased. Next answer, underneath, one fresh line had been added, "Ethan Brooks." Then, for the very first time, the flashlight began to ring like a telephone. I stared at it for several seconds. A tiny screen that had never existed before slowly lit up. One caller ID, home. I never answered because after everything that happened, I finally understood the first rule of Blackwood. Some voices aren't trying to scare you. They're trying to replace you. And once they sound exactly like someone you love, the story has already reached its next victim. And if you think Blackwood is only a story, remember, somewhere out there, someone might already be using your voice. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, subscribe to the Cursed Files, and turn on notifications, because there are more files waiting to be opened. More disappearances, more unexplained cases, and stories that were never meant to be told. Until next time, keep the lights on, check who's really standing behind you, and remember, some files are better left closed. Welcome to the Cursed Files.